It all started when we were walking to the bus stop. I've never bothered getting a car because of how cheap and mostly reliable public transport was here. A friend of mine worked close to my office, so we often took the same bus home. Lately, I've noticed an increase in pigeons downtown, and near where we waited for the bus. Personally, I liked the birds. I thought they were a bit goofy, and aside from all the poop they left, I didn't think they were a problem. My friend Matt hated them. He often had a new insult for the birds. That day was no different. At least 20 packed around at the sidewalk in our path. He ranted at them to startle them, causing the flock to move further down. I frowned at him for being so cruel. I think any city with a pigeon problem also has a pigeon person. Someone who appeared homeless, who took care of the birds or treated them as if they were friends. Our local pigeon man was between us and the bus stop. He was always dressed in a long, black coat, regardless of the weather. He fed and petted the birds as he talked with them. He had a beard, but it didn't appear unkempt. I wondered if he had a home, and pigeons were just a hobby. He also had a sign made of cardboard asking for donations. He listed how much money it would cost to feed the pigeons he was so fond of. $1.50 for a loaf of bread, up to $25 for a month's worth of croutons. Matt nodded towards the man, ready to mock him, but I gave him a look to shut him up. We started to walk by him while dodging the birds at our feet. The man tore pieces off a freshly baked loaf of bread. There wouldn't be nearly enough for all the birds. I felt bad for them. I made it 3 steps past him, and sighed and turned around. Matt had expected this. I've always been a bit of a pushover. He waited as I went over to the old man and read over his sign again. "They will repay the favor," the man said, not looking away from his birds. "They will?" I asked, while still trying to decide how much to donate. "These birds are better than people. They're special. And they don't accept anything for free. So they will repay you." I felt 100 eyes on me. It appeared as if all the birds were watching, as I pulled 2 bills from my wallet. I had recently snagged some overtime at work, so I could afford to pay for a month's worth of croutons for the birds. The man accepted the money and nodded a small thanks. A few birds flapped their wings as Matt tapped his foot, showing a sign he wanted to keep moving. "Don't forget to take care of yourself," I told him, and joined my friend. "He's probably just going to buy some drugs," Matt said, even though we weren't out of earshot yet. "Good for him. Either way," I shrugged. We could still see the man and the flock of pigeons from our bus stop. True to his word, he went inside the small store he had been standing in front of, and came back outside with a bag of croutons. At least someone was taking care of the poor birds. But wasn't bread bad for them? But it made them happy, so that was something. Our bus arrived, and I had forgotten all about the exchange. It wasn't until a small incident happened a week later that I was reminded of the pigeon man. I had been about to cross the street and had stepped off the curb, when a pigeon flew in front of my face, scaring the hell out of me. Thankfully it did, because a car turned when it shouldn't have. If I didn't step back, I would have been hit. I stood stunned over what had happened, my heart racing a mile a minute. Looking up, I spotted the bird that had saved my life sitting on a power line. I could have sworn it nodded at me. The day after I nearly died, I was walking to the bus stop again, but without Matt this time. The pigeon man was sitting on the ground, looking after his birds again. I walked over to him and got down low so we could talk. "I only have this much on me today," I said, offering a $5 bill. "You still have 3 weeks left," he said, and didn't reach out to take the offered cash. I was confused. Glancing over, I saw so many of those birds staring in my direction. Their eyes appeared as if they understood what was going on. Pigeon helped me out the other day. I wanted to repay it. Here." He finally took the bill, and I stood back up. I thought it would be nice to feed the bird that saved my life, regardless of whether it meant to or not. But who knew which one it was? I also hoped this man was taking care of himself, and not just the birds. I noticed my bus drive by us. I darted down the street, hoping to catch it in time. I scared a few of the birds as I ran down the street, expecting the bus to drive away at any second. When I reached the stop, I noticed the reason why it hadn't moved. A bunch of pigeons were sitting in the road, blocking the bus and other traffic. They flew off after I got on. To be honest, I didn't give the man anything, expecting favors from the pigeons. At first, I didn't even believe they were smart enough to do anything for a person, and thought the man had some sort of mental illness. For a moment, though, I wasn't sure what I believed. What if they were helping me out in some way, because I bought their services? But they were birds. What could they even do? In the back of my mind, I was counting down the days until my so-called pigeon contract ended. On the final night, I came home very late because of some final project crunch at work. My girlfriend had also been working non-stop to finish a big project. She was an artist who did massive paintings that a gallery sold. She would spend a few months creating new pieces, and living off the pay from the last batch. We were both suddenly hurting for cash because the gallery ordered 3 more large pieces, and that meant she needed to pay for materials she hadn't budgeted for. Once they were finished, though, it would be worth it. "You're late," she commented, stretching and greeting me by the door. "I heard Matt was going out tonight. Did you go with him?" The apartment smelled of paint, even though she had all the windows open. She was covered with all sorts of colors and needed a shower. I bet that's just what she had been about to do before I walked in the door. "No, I was at work. I needed to finish some stuff so I could have tomorrow off." Faintly, I heard a podcast playing in her painting room. Since she worked for long hours, she needed something to listen to. But I didn't fully approve of her listening to so many true crime podcasts. She got pretty freaked out after so many hours of them. "You need a shower." "So do I. Let's save some water," I offered with a smile. I really wanted to hug her, but didn't want to get paint on my work clothes. "Can we take a rain check? I'm sore from working today," she suggested. She expected me to be disappointed, and I was a little. I snapped my fingers as if I had just lost a bet. "Darn it. Okay, next time. How'd you hear Matt was going out tonight?" "His girlfriend told me. But if you're not with him, that means he's going out drinking alone," she said while crossing her arms. Matt liked to drink at a bar about a 10-minute walk from my place. For lack of a better way to put it, Matt had a drinking problem. Unless someone was with him to keep him in line, he always got into trouble while on a night out. I knew what was going to be said even before the words came out of her mouth. "Maybe you should see if he's at the bar and get him home," she suggested. I groaned and rolled my eyes. I was thinking of excuses when she raised paint-stained hands in a threat. I raised my own in defeat. "Fine. I wanted to buy something from the store either way. Let me get changed first. And you need to stop listening to those podcasts all the time," I told her. "I like Matt's girlfriend. He might get wasted and cheat on her. And she doesn't deserve that. Matt is dumb, but not dumb enough to cheat. Even if he tried. He's such a messy drunk, no one would take him. You just think he's going to be nabbed by those smiley face killers. Who aren't real, by the way," I said with my arms crossed. She narrowed her eyes over just how easily I saw through her, and how I refused to believe a conspiracy, which she did. "If you keep that up, they'll get you next. They also target boyfriends who don't buy their loving girlfriends Cheetos," she said while backing up towards the bathroom. I guess she wanted Cheetos while I was out. I let her get into the shower as I left, to go get my friend into a cab back home before he caused any trouble. I should have never second-guessed my girlfriend. She was smarter than me because somehow she knew Matt needed help. I sent a few texts asking if he was at the bar. It wasn't a very popular one, so I could easily find him inside if he was there. I was a block away when I saw someone stumble out of the bar. 2 people followed behind him. My hand tightened over my phone, ready to dial the police if needed. I quickened my pace to try and catch up to the 3 of them. The pair closed the distance between the first man, and I heard my friend yell. They dragged him into an alleyway as Matt drunkenly shouted for them to let go. I turned the corner to see one man keeping a hand on Matt's jacket, and was in his face over something. "You always go around talking to other people's girls? Huh? You really think she would give you the time of day?" the larger man accused. I suddenly felt exhausted. Why couldn't Matt just behave? He made things even worse by not understanding how much trouble he was in. "I didn't know she was yours. She didn't look at you all night." He shrugged. They got closer, both ready to knock some sense into Matt. I spoke up, causing all 3 of them to look in my direction. "I'm calling the cops if you give me a reason to," I said, not feeling as brave as I sounded. "Is he a friend of yours?" the taller man asked. Sadly, yes. That was not the right answer. They both decided that I needed the same kind of punishment as Matt. Since I was most likely going to call the police either way, they figured they would get something out of being arrested. The taller one landed a hard punch on Matt's face. I pulled out my phone, ready to call the cops, but the second attacker moved too fast. He hit me so hard it knocked me off my feet. I've never been much of a fighter. I tended to take the easy way out or avoided confrontations altogether. The night should have ended with both of us in the hospital, but it didn't. Wings flapped in the darkness as a sudden flock of birds came down. They flew in the face of my attacker, blinding him. He swatted at the birds as he yelled. Their feet and beaks tore at his exposed skin. By sheer luck, he knocked one of them out of the air. It fell hard to the ground. I scooped it up before he stomped on the poor bird. I held it carefully in my arms and watched in horror as more pigeons flocked to the small alleyway. Within seconds, what appeared to be 1,000 of the birds came down. They mauled the 2 men. The sounds of their wings flapping was nearly deafening. Specks of blood and fabric flew out of the mass of feathers as they tore at the humans in the middle of the swarm. I couldn't see Matt for a few seconds. Suddenly, he came bursting out of the mass, his face bleeding from the attack. Pigeons came down on him as they saw him as an enemy. The first man's body dropped to the ground. Through the flapping wings, I saw a mass of flesh and bone. My stomach twisted and fear ran through my body when I realized the birds were eating them alive. And Matt was next. "Wait, please," I cried out, expecting the birds to understand me. He crawled in a ball on the ground as they pecked away. He begged me to do something, but there were far too many. "He'll buy you croutons," I shouted, feeling a little bit stupid, expecting such an offer would work. Somehow, it did. The birds let up long enough for him to get up. He made a run for it, and I caught up to him and grabbed his collar. We were going to uphold our deal. He rambled, scared and hurt, begging for us to just go home. I looked up to see hundreds of pigeons sitting on buildings looking down at us. I called a taxi to get us to the nearest open grocery store. No matter where we went, we were being watched. I still held the injured bird from the fight, unsure of what to do with it. It sat calmly in my arms as we went inside the store. We were an odd sight. One was beaten and bruised while the other held a pigeon. We gathered up bags of croutons, hoping it was enough. Matt meekly tried to make me pay for some of them. I told him he had to do it. The birds already liked me. I wasn't certain how we would feed all the pigeons, but that was answered for us when we left the store. The pigeon man waited for us, and he accepted the bags along with the injured bird. "Can we go home now?" Matt said while looking around. He fidgeted, seeing so many birds watching us from all directions. I could have sworn their eyes were glowing, but it may have just been the streetlights reflecting off their pupils. "Your friend is in the clear,
But the birds don't like you. Matt, was it? You'll need to keep buying them food every month, so they won't punish you,"
the man said, almost sounding bored.
"Punish me for what?"
my friend demanded.
"You kicked one of them outside the bar tonight."
I looked over at Matt, frowning in disappointment. The fact we got away tonight was a miracle. Those birds had been nice enough to give him a second chance after he hurt one of them.
"It's just a bird,"
he protested.
"No, it's not. In case you haven't noticed, this city is theirs now. They're just nice enough to let us live in it. Unless you want to end up as the others tonight, you will feed them."
Those words chilled me down to the bone. Flapping came from overhead. A few pigeons landed near us, their dark eyes watching our reactions. Finally, Matt smartened up and nodded, agreeing to the deal. The man told him how much he needed to buy each month and let us leave. I made sure Matt got home, and we swore not to speak about what happened that night. I think he was worried the police wouldn't believe pigeons kill people who were going to kick his ass. I got home late as my girlfriend rushed over, clearly worried. Only when I saw her did I realize I'd forgotten the Cheetos. She didn't care about that, though. She wanted to know why I had a bruise on the side of my face. I made up a lie about two guys trying to make trouble, and we spent some time running around a few blocks trying to lose them before heading home. She believed that, and I was finally able to relax a little, after such a weird night. 2 months have passed since then. I was aware of every pigeon staring down at me as I went to work. Sometimes they watched me through the office windows. A small feeling of fear hit my stomach every time I saw one of them. I should have expected Matt to not be able to last 2 weeks. He disappeared last week. My girlfriend is spending a lot of time with his girlfriend to comfort her. It kills me that I can't tell them the real reason why he's gone. I haven't heard any reports of the bodies of the 2 men showing up. After all, 2 pecked-to-death men on the street would be a big deal. I've walked by where it happened during the day. Aside from some stains on the ground, there were no signs of what happened. I met the pigeon man again the other day, cash in hand. "Can I pay for my girlfriend?" I asked him. He smiled, but didn't accept the money right away. "They only attack people who wronged them. They'll do favors and look out for the people who buy them food. But I think someday soon they'll fully take over this city. I have a feeling that day will be a bloodbath. The only ones who will make it out alive will be the people like yourself. So, do you have any family that lives in the city?" Luckily, I didn't. I paid him and moved on silently, starting to plan where to move. It would be hard starting in a new place. My girlfriend has only sold work to a local gallery. I hoped she could do the same thing if we left here. I don't know how much time we have left, but it feels as if more and more pigeons are appearing on busy streets every day. Do me a favor. Take care of your local pigeon man. He might be more of a help than you first realize. And whatever you do, don't mistreat pigeons, no matter how much you dislike them. Hey everybody, hope you enjoyed today's first of 2 stories. I want to take a quick second to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. It really helps the channel grow and reach more new people. I was checking recently and saw that around half the people who watch the channel aren't yet subscribed, so I hope you'll take a quick second to hit that button if you haven't yet. Alright, now on to our next story. When I was 14, I was kicked out of my house by my parents. I don't feel like explaining what led up to the fight that ended our relationship. I jumped around between different friends' places until I ran out of friends. I knew unless I contacted my family, I would end up on the street at some point. Still being stubborn, I refused. When my last friend said I couldn't stay the night, I was alone. with nowhere to go and only a few bucks in my pocket. The other issue was it was unseasonably cold. Before night fell, I could already see my breath. By some luck, I found a rundown building I could break into and stay out of the wind. I ran through any ideas of what to do in my head. If I could stand being outside for a night, I could go to school tomorrow. I didn't really do work in class, but at least I could stay warm and take scraps of people's lunches no one wanted. It was how I normally got food during the day. The gas station offered free hot water. If I could scrape together enough change, an instant noodle bowl for dinner would warm me up. With nothing else to do, I curled up on the ground using my backpack as a pillow to sleep. That strategy of using the school for heat and bits of food worked for a few days. I could use the showers there, and a friend let me come over to his place to wash my few pieces of clothing. His parents were strict about who came over, though, so I was out of the house before they got home, and that meant staying over wasn't an option. At least he was nice enough to endure his parents' wrath if we got caught so I could have some clean underwear. Overall, the kids at my school were pretty nice. Or maybe that was just the ones I hung around with. We all had terrible home lives in some way or another, so we all banded together to help out if we could. None of us could do anything about our home life, but we could make sure our friends were fed. They begged me to just go back home. I refused, thinking I was doing all right. They were my support system, and the old broken down building wasn't that bad until I could find something better. My friends kept bringing up valid points of people on the street seeing me as an easy target. I could be robbed, murdered, or sold into trafficking, and no one would be able to help. Being a kid on the street was dangerous in too many ways to count, and yet I still couldn't go back home. The worst of it came when the temperature dropped below freezing. Another friend gave me a jacket that was too small for him. Some gave me extra pairs of socks, and another found some old mittens he wasn't using. And yet it wasn't enough. As I found my way into the old building to get settled in for the night, I wondered if I would be able to make it. The sun hadn't even set yet, and I was shivering. I was wearing all the clothing I owned. I placed the small jacket on the ground because I heard it was warmer to sleep on something. A terrible wind blew outside, as I curled up in my layers of clothing, wondering what to do. There were some places I could hang out. The issue was other people knew about those places. I've come across some pretty threatening people in the same situation as myself. I almost felt bad about being uncomfortable around those people because they had issues they couldn't control. But I also knew that if I tried hanging out inside the warmer places with the other homeless population, I would have issues with them. There was also a chance that someone would actually care about a kid being on the street and would call the cops. As I shivered, I stayed where I was, thinking freezing would be better than getting stabbed, or being forced to go back home. I could see every puff of breath. My nose hurt from how cold it was, and my fingers and toes refused to warm up. I thought about why I was sleeping on the cold ground, and my chest tightened. I was angry at my parents for creating a home in which I felt so unwelcome. It was as if dying from hypothermia was better than being with them. I tried being a good kid, but gave up when nothing I did mattered to them. If they punished me for nothing, I might as well do whatever I wanted. And this was where I ended up. My body hurt from shaking, and yet I couldn't stop. Even if I wanted to call the cops on myself just to be somewhere warm, I was too weak to get up after only an hour on the hard ground. I suppose it wasn't just that hour. It was a week of sleeping outside and not getting regular meals. Before then, I wasn't aware of how painful the cold could be. My chest hurt from shaking. My lungs hurt from the cold air. And my toes felt as if they were going to fall off. I wanted nothing more than a hot meal and a warm bed. Tears started to form, but I forced them down, knowing the wetness on my face would just make me feel colder. Just as I was nodding off, convinced I wouldn't wake up again, I heard something echo through the cold, dark building. A tapping sound. I searched my brain to figure out where I had heard the sound before. It kept getting closer. It was so dark I couldn't see what was causing the sound, and I was too weak to even sit up. I felt scared to death, and yet my eyes refused to open as the sound got closer. And closer. Suddenly, I felt a puff of hot wind on my face. Something in my brain clicked as I realized the sounds I heard getting closer were similar to dog claws tapping on a hard surface. I wanted to open my eyes to see what kind of beast was in front of me, but my body simply shut down. I passed out, completely defenseless. I woke up a short while later feeling as if I couldn't breathe. Something was crushing down on me. An odd smell came as my eyes fluttered open, but I couldn't see anything in the darkness. And for some reason, I was warm, almost hot. I struggled to get my arm free that was pinned under my body. When it moved, I felt something rough. A fur-like texture surrounded me. Then I realized some animal was sitting on me, or was curled around my small form. I didn't know about any wild animals that would be this big. Panic started to rise. If it was a bear or a big cat that escaped from the zoo, I was toast. Once it woke up, I would be mauled when it realized I was a tasty treat. But why did it curl itself around me in the first place? Was it also cold and just using me for body heat? I was still weak and tired. The pressure behind my eyes was a sign of illness. I soon drifted back to sleep, while listening to the rhythmic beating of the creature that held me hostage. When I woke up again, the cold overtook my body. My face was flushed and my throat was sore. I couldn't sit up without getting lightheaded, so I needed to sit back down. Harsh coughs racked my chest. That was a problem. Aside from being sick and still in the harsh weather, it was dangerous being loud while alone. I'd been silent the entire time I stayed in the building. This time, I hoped a security guard found me. At least then I might get some treatment before being shipped back home. I couldn't move that day. Fever chills shook my body down to the bones. I had some water, but couldn't even keep that down. If I could only move and find a payphone to call for help. And yet, I was too ill to do anything. As I lay on the floor, drifting in and out of sleep for the day, I noticed something in the cement that hadn't been there before. Deep grooves in the floor in front of where I was. Almost like massive claw marks. As the sun fell with the temperature, I heard the tapping sound again. I was too scared to keep my eyes open, even though I was awake. Pretending to be asleep, the creature from the night before roughly curled around my sick body. I could tell it was huge and had long, dark fur. No animal I knew of would fit that description. Maybe I was hallucinating because of my fever. It was scary as hell, but at least I was warm. Again, by the time I woke up, the mystery creature was gone, leaving more claw marks. I was feeling well enough to move, and got packed as fast as my body would allow in the dawn light. That was when I was finally discovered. A pair of men dressed in layers of rags came through the same broken door I'd found. They hadn't made a move just yet. They were watching, trying to decide what to do based on my actions. They either just wanted my spot, or wanted something of me I couldn't give up. I looked around, trying to find another way to escape. I figured this building was meant to be an office that was never finished. I was on the second floor. Each window was broken or not installed. Jumping might not kill me. The only way down the stairs was to pass the two poorly hidden men. I got ready to make a break for the window as they rushed out first. I only got a few steps when I felt someone grab my backpack and bring me to the ground. I screamed, trying to get their hands off, as they pulled at my clothing, trying to get anything they could. A knife glittered in the dim sunlight, and yet I still fought, trying to get free. Both of them reeked. Neither were well fed, but could easily overpower a kid still in high school. I was gonna die, or worse. And I would have, if it wasn't for what kept me warm the past 2 nights. Out of nowhere, the man who was holding the knife suddenly didn't have his head. Blood sprouted from the wound, causing me and my attacker to stop and stare wide-eyed in fear. The body hit the ground with a sickening sound. The other man scrambled back, trying to figure out what had just happened and where the attack came from. I was frozen to the spot from fear and shock as blood pooled on the ground next to my head. A scream made me finally sit up. A dark creature almost in the shape of a wolf appeared in the room. It nearly reached the ceiling, and if it raised its head, it wouldn't fit. I couldn't see any eyes or even any facial features on the head. The fur was so dark, it was as if all color and light were being sucked inside. The man screaming drew the beast's attention. A turn of the featureless head towards the sound nearly made me faint from fear. Instead of finishing off the other person quickly like the first, it took its time. First, a slash across the face with a flick of a single claw, then another over his chest. The man tried running, but was blocked at every attempt. More and more wounds were dealt, spattering blood across the room. The monster finally gave some sort of mercy, pinning its prey down with one massive clawed paw, and tearing into his stomach with a large mouth that appeared between the dark fur. The sound of it crunching through bones and tearing out organs made me sick. I puked out bile, unable to stop. Some voice in the back of my head told me I needed to get the hell out of there while it was distracted. It saved my life twice, maybe 3 times. I didn't freeze or was murdered by these two, but I didn't feel as if this monster was on my side. But rather, it used me. I was a lure. Being weak, I would draw in men like these two. Why eat one meal when you could use it to bring in more? If it decided I wasn't good enough bait, I would be dinner. With the door blocked, I did the only other thing I could think of. I grabbed my backpack and took a running jump out the window. I was right. It didn't kill me, but it did break a few things. I got up and hobbled to a nearby gas station, still in so much shock I wasn't fully aware of how badly I was hurt. The attendant called for an ambulance before I collapsed. I tried telling them about the creature and the 2 dead men, but the cops found no sign of someone being killed in the building. Only the scratch marks on the ground, and the jacket I'd left behind. They assumed I saw the marks and had a fever dream so vivid it made me jump out the window. My parents got in trouble for the fact I was sleeping on the streets, and yet not even the school knew. My friend should have said something, but they heard so many horror stories about foster care they didn't want to report my situation. In the end, I moved in with my aunt. It wasn't perfect, but she was much better than my parents, who I still barely speak with. To this day, I still don't know what I came across. I almost want to thank it for keeping me alive. After that experience, I gotta say, I appreciate my bed the most. Even though now it is being taken up by my aunt's 2 large dogs most nights, making it nearly impossible to sleep.
Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/JordanGrupeHorror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward, and if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow, and see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.